We are proud to be an American. We accept our nation as a republic, but do each and one of you know the structure of our government and the way it functions? And most importantly, why it affects you? So, the US government consists of three branches: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. And the legislative branch, the components of it consist of Congress, which is a bicameral legislature. It consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Their responsibility primarily is to make laws. So in the House of Representatives, it includes a total of 435 members determined by the US population. The Senate consists of 100 members, two from each state. So a bill is introduced in one or the other house. It is then carried throughout committees. It has to be approved by the majority vote, and then it is passed on to the other house. It starts with the very same process. It goes through certain committees, and then it has to win majority vote. If it is passed in both houses, that is when it is taken up to the president to be signed for. If the president signs the bill, it then becomes law. If the president vetoes the bill, which means he rejects it, it goes back to Congress to start the process all over. But by that point, primarily, sometimes, or most times, the bill does not get passed. So each branch has checks and balances. Now we know that the legislative branch makes laws. Now we're going to go on to the executive branch, who enforces them. So the executive branch is comprised of the president, the vice president, and the 15 cabinets. So the president's duties is to run our nation. He's also the commander-in-chief. He's the public advocate for speaker for us, for other nations, and much more. His succession starts with the vice president and then continues off with the secretary head of the cabinets. So these cabinets happen to be organizations throughout our nation that work for the government, of course, and that keep our country running, such as the Cabinet of Energy. The Department of Energy is one that advocates for cleaner solutions. They get more into science. The Department of Transportation includes DOT, it includes OSHA, keeps our roads safe. We have our Department of Agriculture that preserves our national parks, and much, much more. There is a total of 15, and each of them has sub-agencies to them as well. So it becomes a very, very complex and big branch once we start separating and counting actually how many cabinets and sub-agencies we have. Each branch has checks and balances. Again, as the legislative branch makes the laws, the executive branch enforces the laws. So we come down to the branch, the judicial branch, which interprets the law. The judicial branch is a court system that consists of upholding the direct interpretation of what our country's constitution and advocates justly thereafter. So the court system are a tier of power according to the cases of all types. The highest court of all being the U.S. Supreme Court, following with state courts, and then following with local courts. There's a very big significance in civil cases in history, such as Board versus Brown of Education, Miranda versus Arizona. These are Supreme Court cases that have drastically changed the viewpoint of our nation, the path of our journey that our nation goes. And there is about 8,000 or so approximately cases that attempt to be heard as a case in the U.S. Supreme Court, but there is very few Supreme Courts that are actually reviewed each year. So it is very specific into how big these cases get, but when they do, it again makes a very big, significant change to our nation. So these three branches make up our U.S. government. The legislative branch makes the laws, the judicial branch enforces them, and the legislative branch interprets them. Each of them has checks and balances over one over the other. So that means that the judicial branch cannot go over the executive over the judicial, or they are intercombined together. They work together. Each of them has, in saying that no one of them has more power over the other. All of them are working for our nation, for our people, and us. The democratic government we live in is made up of millions of people whose sole purpose is to keep a republic nation. Each branch has a duty to serve and laws to uphold to secure the people. It is a topic that can be overlooked, especially with the fast-paced American life. But now, each and every one of us understands even just a little of the roles of our government and the impact it has on our lives. It is important to know the facts of our government in order to create logical opinions about our history and even our current events.